Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Feisty Implement 6823 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. It's one with several updates that started back in January 2025 and has an update this month, June 2026. So if you want to skip certain parts of the story that you've heard before, feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. It's titled, Am I the Arsehole for not wanting to share my inheritance with my sister? So I, 28 male, recently lost my father. It was a really tough time, but we knew it was coming because he had been sick for a while. Before he passed, he made it clear in his will that I would inherit the majority of his estate, including his house and a significant amount of money. My sister, 25 female, would receive a smaller amount, mostly sentimental items and a bit of cash. Here's the thing, my sister and my dad didn't have a good relationship. She moved out when she was 18 and they barely spoke after that. My dad tried to reconnect several times, but she always shut him down. I, on the other hand, took care of him during his illness, visiting almost every day and handling all his medical appointments. Now, my sister is furious. She's calling me selfish and saying that it's unfair she got so little. She thinks I should split the inheritance 50-50. I told her I respected Dad's wishes and that I don't think it's my responsibility to change what he wanted, especially given the circumstances. She argues that family is family and it's not fair to punish her for their estranged relationship, but I think it's not my fault they didn't get along. She had years to fix things with him, but she chose not to. My mum, they're divorced, is on her side, saying that I should do the right thing and give her more money to keep the peace. Some friends agree with her, while others think I'm justified in keeping what I was given. So, am I the arsehole for not wanting to share my inheritance with my sister? Opie adds an edit and says, I've seen some comments saying this sounds fake or that I'm leaving out key details, so let me clarify a few things. First, about my sister's estrangement. It wasn't something that happened overnight. After my parents divorced, she sided heavily with my mum and gradually distanced herself from our dad. She blamed him for the split, and even though my dad tried to reconcile over the years, she was unwilling to meet him halfway. I'm not saying she's a bad person. Divorces are messy, but it's not like Dad cut her off for no reason. Second, I know some of you might think Dad was playing favorites, but I don't see it that way. I think he divided things based on who was there for him in his final years. It wasn't about punishment. It was about recognition. Lastly, for those saying I'm conveniently painting myself as the golden child, I promise that's not my intention. My sister had her reasons for stepping back, but I stepped up because I felt it was the right thing to do. That's why this situation is so hard. I'm trying to honor my dad's wishes, but I also don't want to completely ruin my relationship with my sister. Hope this clears up some of the gaps. There were some questions and answers. One says I've seen a lot of questions, so I'll try to clarify some things to fill in the gaps. Why did my parents get divorced? My parents' divorce happened when I was 12 and my sister was 9. It wasn't one big event, it was a combination of things. My dad worked long hours running his own business and my mum felt neglected. She also said Dad had a controlling personality, which caused a lot of tension. On the other hand, Dad felt Mum wasn't supportive of his career and resented him for working so much. Eventually, they just couldn't make it work and they decided to separate. My sister blamed Dad for the divorce because in her eyes, he was the one who chose work over family. Mum didn't exactly help. She would make comments about how Dad cared more about his business than his kids. I think this shaped my sister's perspective and made her more distant from him. Why were my sister and Dad so conflicted? After the divorce, I stayed with Dad, while my sister lived with Mum. Dad tried to stay involved in her life, but the distance, both physical and emotional, made things harder. Over time, my sister started avoiding him. For example, he'd call her, but she wouldn't pick up. He'd send gifts or letters, and she'd never acknowledge them. One of the big breaking points came when she graduated high school. Dad showed up to her graduation uninvited because he wanted to celebrate her, but she got upset and accused him of trying to make it about himself. After that, they barely spoke. Why didn't my sister visit when Dad was sick? This is something only my sister can fully explain, but I think it goes back to their strained relationship. By the time Dad got sick, they hadn't spoken in years. I reached out to her multiple times telling her how serious things were, but she said she wasn't ready to see him. Dad was hurt but never angry. He said she has come to her own terms. Unfortunately, she never did. Why didn't Dad just leave everything 50-50? I asked myself this too. I think Dad felt the inheritance should reflect the relationships he had. He knew I had been there for him throughout his illness, and he wanted to recognize that. At the same time, he didn't want to completely exclude my sister, which is why he left her sentimental items and some money. I don't think it was about punishing her. I think he just wanted to acknowledge the reality of our family dynamic. So it was 13 days later that OP came in with their first update on the situation and said, "Thanks for all the responses on my original post. After thinking it through and reading a lot of your comments, I've decided I'm not giving my sister anything beyond what Dad left her. His will was clear, and I'm not going to disrespect his wishes to appease someone who didn't even bother to visit him when he was dying. I tried to be reasonable and explain my side, but it's pointless. My sister is still sending me nasty texts, calling me names, and acting like I stole from her. My mum is no better. She's basically turned this into a full-on guilt trip, saying things like, 'You're tearing this family apart, and you're just like your father.' Honestly, if being just like Dad means standing my ground, I'll take it as a compliment. At this point, I'm done trying to keep the peace. They can say whatever they want about me. I'm not changing my mind. I'm going to do what I want with the inheritance and move on with my life. If that means cutting some people off, so be it. To everyone who said I'm not the arsehole, thank you. It feels good to have some validation. For now, I'm focusing on honoring Dad's memory and making the most of what he left me. We'll see where this goes next, but I'm not backing down." So it was 5 months after that update. OP came in with another one and said, "It's been a while since my last update, but things have gone completely off the rails since then, and I need to get this off my chest." So 6 months after my dad passed and the inheritance was finalized, my sister completely lost it. I thought things were rough before, but this took it to a whole new level. First, she tried to sue me. She claimed I manipulated Dad into changing the will and accused me of undue influence, saying I isolated her from him while he was sick and pressured him while he was medicated. It was full of lies and reached so far I don't even know how she said it with a straight face. She even had 2 friends of hers sign statements saying they felt something was off, even though neither of them were ever around our family. Her case got tossed, quickly. Judge dismissed it with prejudice, so she can't try again. I thought that would be the end of it. Nope. She started harassing me. Constant texts, emails, calls from private numbers. She made burner accounts on social media and commented on anything I posted. Signed me up for mailing lists. Then I walked outside one day and someone had spray painted "thief" across my garage. I have cameras now and yeah, it was her, clear as day. Had to file a police report, and that's still in progress. Then she showed up at the house while I was gone for the weekend. Broke in through a back window. She wrecked the place, ripped pictures off the wall, poured something on the couch, smelled like bleach, broke furniture, went through drawers, dumped boxes of my dad's stuff on the floor, left a note on the bathroom mirror that just said, "You don't deserve this." I reported the break-in. There's now a criminal case open against her. It gets worse. Right after that, she started telling extended family and mutual friends that I'd sexually assaulted her when we were younger. That's where I draw the line. It's not just petty inheritance drama anymore. She crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. I've never done anything like that, obviously, and hearing that kind of accusation come from your own sibling is something I don't think I'll ever fully process. I have nothing to hide, and I've already spoken to a lawyer. If she says it publicly again, I'm filing a defamation suit. My mom is still trying to play both sides. She's saying things like, "Your sister is just grieving in her own way," as if that justifies any of this. It doesn't. We're done. I've cut contact with both of them. If there's a takeaway here, it's that people can spiral in ways you never expect when money and guilt get mixed together. I kept thinking, surely this is the last straw, but it just kept going. I'm tired, I'm angry, and I'm done. I'll keep the house, I'll keep what Dad left me, and I'll keep my distance. So our next post brings us up to date. After a year and 5 months from the original and 11 months and 25 days from the last post, Opie says, "It's been a while since my last update, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd ever make another one. After everything that happened with my sister, I felt like there wasn't much left to say. The legal issues were moving through the system. I'd cut contact with most of the people involved, and I was trying to focus on rebuilding my life instead of constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next disaster." Before I get into the update, I want to thank everyone who has followed this story. A few people recently pointed out that between the original post and all the updates, they've now been viewed over 1 million times. That's honestly difficult to wrap my head around. When I made the first post, I was just looking for outside opinions because I felt completely stuck. I never expected so many people to become invested in what started as a family argument over an inheritance. A lot of you gave advice that ended up helping more than you probably realize. The people who kept telling me to document everything were absolutely right. At the time, I thought I was being thorough, but looking back, I don't think I could have over-prepared for what eventually happened. Every message, every email, every voicemail, and every piece of camera footage ended up mattering at some point. For the past several months, life has been surprisingly quiet. That's probably the biggest update I have. After over a year of constant conflict, legal filings, accusations, and drama, things finally slowed down. I didn't realize how much stress I'd been carrying until I stopped having to deal with a new crisis every week. It's strange how quickly chaos becomes normal when you're living through it. One thing that did surprise me was hearing from extended family members I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Several people reached out over the last few months, and the conversations were very different from what I expected. Instead of questioning me or asking about the inheritance, most of them were apologizing. Apparently, as more information came out and people started comparing stories, a lot of relatives realized they accepted things they were told about me without ever asking my side of the situation. Some of those conversations were honestly uncomfortable because I didn't know how to respond. A few relatives admitted they had believed I manipulated my father. Others said they assumed the lawsuit meant there had to be something suspicious about the will. One person even told me they thought I'd intentionally prevented my sister from seeing my father during his illness. Hearing that was frustrating, but it also explained why some people had suddenly distanced themselves from me after my father passed away. The common theme in all those conversations was that people eventually started noticing inconsistencies. Different people had told different versions of the same story, and those versions didn't always line up with each other. Once questions started being asked, some of the narratives that had been circulated through the family had become much harder to defend. For the first time since this entire situation began, I wasn't the one being asked to explain myself. My relationship with my mother remains complicated. We've spoken a handful of times, and while things are less hostile than they used to be, I wouldn't describe them as good. We still disagree about a lot of what happened, and I don't think either of us is likely to change our mind anytime soon. That said, we've at least reached a point where we have a conversation without turning it into an argument within 5 minutes, which is more progress than I would have expected a year ago. As for my sister, there really isn't much to report. We haven't spoken, and I haven't made any effort to change that. Some relationships can survive serious disagreements, but what happened between us went far beyond the disagreement about money. Too many things were said and too many lines were crossed for me to pretend everything can simply go back to normal. Maybe things will be different someday, but that's not something I'm actively hoping for or planning around. The biggest thing I've realized over the last year and a half is that the inheritance itself stopped being the main issue a long time ago. When I made the original post, I thought the argument was about money. Looking back, the money was just the spark that exposed years of resentment, unresolved family problems, and completely different views of the same events. The inheritance wasn't what broke my family, it just revealed how broken parts of it already were. But now, life is stable. The house feels like my home, work is going well, and I'm finally making plans that don't revolve around court dates or legal paperwork. After everything that's happened, I've learned not to assume that the story is completely over. But for the first time since my father died, it feels like I'm moving forward instead of standing still. As always, thank you to everyone who followed this situation and offered advice along the way. I never expected over 1 million people to read about what happened to my family, but I'm grateful for the support I've received. Hopefully my next update, if there ever is one, will be significantly less dramatic than the ones that came before it. Opie then talks about the criminal case in the comments and says, since a lot of people are asking about the criminal case, I'll answer what I can. I can't get into every detail because some of it is still subject to court records, and I don't really want this to turn into a play-by-play of the legal process. That said, the charges stem from the break-in and damage to the house. The camera footage ended up being a huge factor. It clearly showed my sister entering the property while I was away and remaining inside for a significant amount of time. Combined with the condition of the house afterwards, the damaged property and some other evidence collected during the investigation, law enforcement felt there was enough to move forward. The charges included unlawful entry, criminal mischief/property damage, and a few related offenses. Again, I'm intentionally being somewhat vague because I don't want to post documents online, but it wasn't a situation where she was arrested because of an argument over inheritance. It was specifically tied to the actions she took after the inheritance dispute. A lot of people have asked whether she served jail time. The answer is no. She ultimately accepted a plea agreement. From my understanding, that involved probation, restitution related to some of the damage, and conditions restricting contact. Some people will probably think that's too lenient and others will think it's too harsh, but at that point I wasn't interested in revenge. I just wanted the behavior to stop. The sexual assault allegations were never part of the criminal case. Those accusations were never substantiated and never resulted in charges against anyone. My attorney's advice was to document everything, avoid public arguments, and address any false statements through the proper legal channels if necessary. I know some people were expecting a dramatic courtroom showdown, but real life is usually less exciting than Reddit wants it to be. Most legal disputes end with paperwork, negotiations, and people getting tired of paying lawyers. The biggest thing the criminal case accomplished was creating consequences and boundaries. For the first time since all of this started, there were actual restrictions in place. Whether people agree with the outcome or not, things became significantly quieter afterwards, which was ultimately what I wanted. Now the first part of this, the very first part of the story, I was like, what's the backstory here? What's missing? Was there favoritism? Was the sister pushed away? For what reason? But bloody hell, did it escalate after the inheritance? And like OP said, it wasn't even about that in the end. It just turned into harassment, vandalism, breaking into the house, destroying property, and then there was the sexual assault allegation. Holy shit, that's like the worst for me. And it was interesting the way that OP explained it in the end, that the inheritance was never really the issue, it was just the trigger, and the real issue was decades of unresolved family baggage by the sounds of it. People in the comments talking about, was the mum using the daughter as a pawn against him and all that kind of stuff. I'm glad that things did start to calm down for OP by the end of this, because after going through all that, and it's not just the events that happen, her breaking in, the graffitiing on the garage and all this kind of stuff, the accusations of sexual assault, it must be just the worry as well, the constant worry of what's coming next. What are other people thinking, especially the sexual assault allegation? It must occupy your mind all the time and be absolutely exhausting. So I really hope that OP does start to find some peace now, because that is wild. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from the relationship advice subreddit from a throwaway account who says, my 26 female friend, 26 female, has accused me of stealing her boyfriend. Boyfriend, 25 male, had no idea they were dating. Oh dear. Names changed to respect privacy and throwaway account. Honestly, no idea where to start with this, and sorry if it's long. I, 26 female, have been friends with Carly, also 26 female, since middle school. We lost touch after I moved out of state for law school, but our parents are still friends. I moved back to our home state last year when I graduated and met Matt, 25 male. We bonded instantly as we're both studying to be lawyers. Matt should graduate this year if all goes well. Because of studying and work, we've taken things really slowly and only just recently became official. As we'd gone official, I decided to invite him to my sister's 21st birthday party. It was a huge party at my parents' house back in my hometown. Both Matt and I work and live separately about an hour away. We'd been at the party for about an hour when Carly arrived with her parents. I was excited to see her as I'd been meaning to get back in touch since I'd moved back. The timing had never been right. Well, Carly spotted us and hurried on over. I was surprised when she gave Matt a huge hug and asked him what he was doing at the party. Turns out they work in the same building and Matt is friends with a few of Carly's friends. They've been on group nights together a few times. I did the whole, oh Carly, this is my boyfriend Matt thing, and her face instantly fell. She looked furious with me and ignored me for the rest of the party. I sent her a message the next morning asking if I had done anything wrong. Carly blew up at me and accused me of stealing her boyfriend, and I soon got several rude messages from mutual friends saying something similar. I met up with Matt and asked him what the hell was going on. I'd assumed that once we'd made it official, we were exclusive. Matt had no idea what I was talking about. I relayed Carly's message and he was even more confused. He said that he got on with Carly when they saw each other, but it had never been anything more than a friendship. He didn't think anything of them spending time together outside of work with friends, so that's why I didn't know he and Carly worked in the same building. It's been a week since the party and I'm still getting messages from people on how I could do that to Carly. I've tried saying over and over again that Matt and Carly weren't dating, but it's fallen on deaf ears. Even my parents have heard about from Carly's parents. I have no idea what the hell to do. Where do I go from here? I trust Matt completely, but what do I do about Carly? Edit. People have asked about the friends who have sent me messages. These are all mutual friends of myself and Carly who we've known since high school. None of them, as far as I know, have ever met Matt. None of his work friends who also know Carly have sent me messages. Also, I have spoken to Carly and we're meeting up tomorrow to talk. The commenter says to OP, it seems you unintentionally busted up Carly's fantasy. Not your fault, not your problem. She seems immature and full of drama. OP says she's never acted like this before and that's why it really rattled me. Sure, I haven't seen her much over the past few years, but she was never like this in high school as far as I can remember. Another one says, why can't you sit down with her and find out what the hell is going on? You're studying law and 26, not 15. You of all people should know that, but Matt said means absolutely squat. The truth is going to lay somewhere in the middle. Granted, you're not in the wrong either way, as that girl needs to realize that there is no such thing as stole. He clearly wasn't into her, and for crying out loud, she's 26 and running to her mummy and daddy. Like so many, God have her parents failed her big time. OP replies saying, I'm meeting her tomorrow. It would have been sooner, but I'm studying, working, or with Matt, so I don't have a lot of free time. Blowing Flag says if she can't produce evidence of her actually dating Matt in real life, not just in her head, then I'd blow off her claims of girlfriend status. There should easily be all kinds of social media pics, stories, check-ins, whatever evidence in a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship, not just a whole group of people hanging out. Your generation is huge on social media presence. See what she can actually present. ETA, if she can't produce a sizable number of pictures and posts of just the two of them dating, then I'd drop this friendship like a rock and block her because Carly would be a bunny boiler. A commenter says, well, this is a shit show created by Carly. I think you should just ignore her. So, you know what your parents heard? Did they hear you broke up Carly and her boyfriend? Maybe says, quoting that, my mum called me the day after the party and told me that Carly's mum had been on the phone complaining about me. Carly had told her that I'd stolen her boyfriend and then she called my mum. I told my mum that wasn't the case, but apparently Carly and her mum are still telling that story. Oh dearie me, so it's going to be one of those ones where you didn't steal her boyfriend, she just got like this fantasy in her head and you shattered that. And one of the biggest things that jumped out to me is that none of Matt's friends or co-workers seem shocked. The only people that seem to be blowing up OP's phone are the mutual friends from high school who have never even met Matt. So that makes me think that they're only hearing what Carly's told them and taking that at face value. It was wild that she was getting the parents involved at the same time. A 26-year-old calling her mum and dad to complain that her friend stole her boyfriend, and the boyfriend doesn't even know he's her boyfriend is wild. It's going to be interesting to see when OP meets up with Carly what actually happens, which we have got the update for. It says, well, I met up with Carly. They're not dating and never were, so Matt isn't a cheater. I met up with Carly this morning at a coffee shop in our hometown. She wasn't happy to be there, but I'm over her feelings over the past week I've had. I sat her down and asked her to give me her side of the story. I told her exactly what Matt had said to me and asked for her to explain everything. Carly met Matt last year, not long before I moved back to the state. A mutual friend in the building they both work in invited Matt to an after-work drinks, and that's when they met. Carly thought he was cute and started flirting with him. Sidebar, Matt is awful at picking up flirting cues. It took weeks of me flirting with him until he realized and asked me out. This is something I always find amusing because Matt himself was really outgoing with a lot of charisma. No, they never spent any time alone together apart from the odd run to a coffee shop near their building to grab lunch. I went through Carly's phone and there are no messages from Matt apart from ones in their group chat. They haven't kissed or slept together. Carly has never been to Matt's apartment and Matt has never been to Carly's apartment. I asked her why she thought he was her boyfriend. This is a direct quote. Okay, so we're not officially boyfriend and girlfriend yet, but I was sure he was going to ask me really soon. He's always smiling at me and making jokes. I know he's going to ask me out, just the two of us. I basically said, Carly, that's not him flirting with you, that's just Matt. He's a friendly guy. I'm sorry, but he and I have been seeing each other for a while now, so it's not going to happen. I explained how we've been taking it slow because of the both of us being so busy with studying and work, so we've only just made it official. As I said all this, I could see Carly's elaborate fantasy crumble. I asked her to please set the record straight with her parents, for my parents' sake, and with our mutual friends. Carly looked flustered but mumbled something that sounded like, yeah, fine. I said I was sorry for this misunderstanding and hopefully we could put all of this behind us. On my drive to Matt's apartment, I called him to relay everything. He was baffled by the whole thing but said he would message Carly. Once I got there, he showed me the text. Hey Carly, look, I'm sorry if I misled you in any way with my actions. Please know they have only ever been from a friendly place. I see us as friends, but that's all. Hope we can be friends in the future once this is all blown over, but if you're not comfortable with that, then I respect it. All the best, Matt. Carly hasn't responded yet, and I don't know if she will. Hopefully she will set the record straight with everyone. I'm washing my hands of this mess and focusing on my relationship with Matt and my studies. Bloody hell, so Carly went from, I think he's going to ask me out soon, and turned it into, he's my boyfriend, and then was dragging all sorts of people into it, the parents, the mutual friends into the drama. Who does that? And they both talk about possibly maybe being some kind of like friendship again in the future, but I'd have a hard time trusting that if I was them, and if I was Matt, I'd be even more concerned because they work together at the same time, right? I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's done anything, but at least having it on record that something like this went down so it doesn't get dragged into the workplace talking to HR about it, because that's some wild shit. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, for getting involved in the stories, for clicking that like button, for watching all the way to the end of the video. I can't express what a big difference it does make to the channel, and I'm forever thankful for all the things that you do, for commenting and being involved in the community as well. Bless you, thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, and much love.